If you ever took a philosophy course in college or a modern European history course, you may recall the German term Weltanschauung. In English, we need two words to translate it, as often happens with compound German words. So in English, we say world view. How we see the world and inescapably where it is going, that's to say, the future. The current political situation in our country and in numerous other countries has many leaders and many people like you and me thinking in these terms. What is my worldview? And what does it tell me about where we want to go, about the future? The author of Matthew's Gospel and his community thought about it too. The author of Matthew's Gospel portrays Jesus as the new Moses, a concept his audience could grasp. So his teaching is organized into 5 discourses, like the 5 books of the Pentateuch, and this parable, among others, is part of the 3rd discourse, the center and perhaps the high point of the gospel. A parable, of course, is a way of teaching which grabs our attention, often leaves us with a question, and may even change our behavior. Sometimes a parable is brief, but sometimes it is longer and even divided into parts. That is the case with the parables of the sower, begun last Friday, chapter 13, verses 18 to 23, followed up the next day with verses 24 to 30, and finally today's section, verses 36 to 43. Perhaps one of the most unusual aspects of these parables is that they are explained, which is not always the case. And the explanation from verse 36 on is, in fact, unique to Matthew. According to some scholars, the explanation in this section is almost certainly not that of Jesus, but rather of the author of the gospel, who understood the parable in the apocalyptic terms of the worldview of his own community. For this mixed Jewish-Gentile community in the first, perhaps, 50 years after the resurrection, their worldview had changed dramatically to include the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Yet not everyone they knew shared their worldview or its meaning for them, for history, or for the future. Among the Jews, some had embraced this worldview, but definitely not all. How to understand this, how to live with it, how to go forward. How is their situation helpful to us? We live in many mixed communities, some of which share our worldview shaped by the gospel, and some do not. We live and work alongside of saints and sinners every day, in our neighborhoods and workplaces, even in our families, and certainly in our church. The church has called herself Semper Reformata, always in need of reform, as indeed she and we all are. So how are we to live in this complicated and often messy situation? Do these parables and Matthew's explanation offer us insight? The apocalyptic explanation of the parable is obvious, as it speaks of, quote, the end of the age. 2 things were clear to Matthew's community and to us. Confronted, as we both are, with serious differences of worldview, with disagreement over the meaning of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection to their worldview, and ultimately to ours. Not everyone has Jesus central to their view of humanity or history. First, we must act with patient tolerance. This does not mean that we do not speak our truth, but we do it with respect and charity. Secondly, the first judgment, the final sifting in biblical language is for God alone. In these long, perhaps slower days of summer, we might take time to ask ourselves, what is my worldview? To what extent is it permeated with the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus? How does my worldview, both consciously and unconsciously, shape my choices in the large and small decisions I make every day?